Okay, so hello to everyone on the live stream and all of you who are here live in the Zoom meeting. Sorry, my test feed wasn't coming up there. So these Thursday evening Zoom meetups are the public facing part of the vidwheel creator network, or VCN. What is the VCN? It's a group that brings together consultants and solopreneurs who aspire to take our businesses to the next level with self-produced video. We come together in order to master our video gear, learn and develop the skills necessary to make powerful video content that can enhance our businesses and look awesome on camera so that we can grow, reach a wider audience of clients and partners, and develop the flexibility in our businesses to thrive in the turbulent world. If you find that intriguing and you like the type of content that you hear tonight, and you find it valuable and want to grow your business with video, then this may be the group for you. If you want to learn more, sign up for a quick meeting and we can talk video. There's a link in the video description, and I just dropped one in the chat for the folks who are live in the meeting as well. We also have a really nifty link page that we recently put together with a lot of free video resources that we have out there. I'll drop that in the chat too. Most of you folks in the meeting probably haven't seen that one yet. And that's also in the live stream. So all that said, the live stream is a great preview of the vidwheel creator network Zoom meetup. But if you want to get the full experience, join us on the next Zoom meetup, which is on Thursday, May 5th at 8 p.m. Eastern. It features marketer and content creator Patrick Canero. Patrick will be kicking off LinkedIn month, presenting quick and easy LinkedIn workouts with video. If generating for LinkedIn is a drag, you may need to get your process in shape. Try this quick and easy workout to make the process of engaging and creating on LinkedIn lighter, leaner, and more efficient. The event info for that event and all following events will be published at events.vidwheel.com. Once again, in the link description of this live stream. All right, so let's get to it here. We are still rolling with our YouTube month here on the VCN. And today we have YouTube strategist and marketer Eric Worral with us. He's going to present a beginner's guide to YouTube ads and submarines. It should be a good one, and I'm excited. I, for one, am excited to learn more about submarines, right? That's what it's all about, Eric.
Oh yeah.
So
Neil kind of put me on the spot, and he's like, we should probably have a little bit of a hook to this. And it almost went very poorly because the submarines thing, I think it was some old joke about somebody selling screen doors on a submarine. I don't know. It just popped in my head, something from elementary school. But for anybody not from Buffalo, New York, we have a boat sinking in the water right now downtown.
I didn't even think about that.
I know. And I was like, how horrible would that have been if it was the submarine? And then it was like this guy talking about selling screen doors for submarines. That could have been really bad.
Or it could have brought a lot of attention to the meeting, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Any press is good press, Eric.
But yeah, right. When you want me to get kicked off?
Yeah. I think if you're ready to go, let's do it, Eric.
Sure. So yeah, Neil was asking me about a subject matter and the submarine thing, just kind of being goofy, but I was just kind of thinking of something off the top of my head. I'm like, YouTube's awesome because it's just so huge and you can just find an audience for anything. And the more research you do, you can just kind of dig into it. So I was like, I didn't even look it up. I was just like, I don't know, we'll find some submarine channels and we'll look into that and we'll show how you could possibly run an ad if you were somebody who is somehow involved with submarines. But as we're going through this, just give you a little bit of background on my history. I have been doing YouTube since 2011. Just started it just kind of like a lot of people do. I'm just like, I'm going to make a video and just kind of messing around. I eventually started learning the platform better, understanding how to get views, how to rank content, how to show up in people's feeds. And then from that, got into affiliate marketing, started creating a bunch of content around like product reviews and doing those types of things. That went pretty well. And then actually ended up having a client reach out because they saw the results I was driving for them. Their agency reached out and said, hey, we want to have you be the head of our video marketing department. And the first thing I said to him, I said, hey, I know video marketing well. I don't know paid video as well. You know, I've dabbled, but I would not say I'm an expert. And I'm not going to tell you guys I'm an expert right now. But going through this, I've gotten the experience of like how the platform works, what you need to think of as you're going through and creating like a YouTube ad. And even if it's not something that you want to do today because you don't see, you know, the validation for it for your business, I want it to be something where if you're on YouTube, you can understand what these different ads are doing and where they're coming from and how you can kind of track them a little bit and just learn more about what those companies are doing that are marketing to you too. So I'm going to share my screen here. We're going to run through a few different things, and I kind of want to just make it more of a Q&A as we go through it. So feel free to ask questions. That's no problem at all. Should probably do this.
You should be, yeah.
Yeah.
You're good.
Yep. So first of all, we just had to put it on there. USS Sullivan. We hope you make it. You know, that's the boat that's sinking. So it's our fault. But next up, this, I just want to do like a real quick, this is just like a YouTube help Google support kind of forum. I'll zoom in on here for you, but there's a bunch of different ads that you can run on YouTube here. And the main ones that I want to talk about here are skippable in-stream ads that you can see at the top and in-feed video ads. So if we click on the skippable in-stream ads, everyone's familiar with these, right? You see these ads that pop up, they get 5 seconds to try to pitch you and your mouse is just going to the right, lower right corner to click skip this ad kind of thing. So we'll be talking about that a little bit. But then the other ones that I find pretty interesting as well, non-skippable, same thing, except you can't skip it, right? It's at the beginning of the ad usually. But I also find in-feed video ads very interesting as well for being able to show up where people are on YouTube and at the right time. So when Neil was like, come up with a hook, and I was like, I don't know, I'm selling screen doors on a submarine. We'll figure something out with that. So I ended up going to YouTube, just kind of searching around, looking for channels, looking for different things, you know, and of course it's YouTube. So you got this guy who I thought was pretty interesting. He's got 126,000 subscribers. Apparently he was the former sonar man for like 30 years on a submarine. And he said he retired and he had a year off and he got so bored. And now he makes these really fun videos and like getting into the technicalities of submarines. So it's just so funny, like how this is what I love about YouTube too, is like, especially this, when you see people who have a passion and then they were, you know, forced to retire or had to retire or whatever, and then they were able to continue that passion because of this platform. I think it's so cool. And as you go into Google ads, right? We're not going to go too far into the weeds, and I have kind of saved screenshots. Hopefully this one loads. It's been okay. So I didn't want to get into the screenshots itself, like actually taking you through live because it's got my personal information and stuff in there. But this is the way that it's laid out. Can everyone see this fine? So typically if you're running a video ad, you go on to Google Ads, which used to be called Google AdWords, changed to Google Ads. Google just likes to change the name of everything every couple of years. And you would create a campaign without a goals guidance. And then the next thing that would pop up is these options here. And then obviously you click video. And then typically what I do is you want to click custom video campaign. You can click some of these down here if you want, but when you click the custom one, it's going to give you a few more options. The next page that pops open, this is where I think a lot of people get a little bit like inundated and it's just too much information, because it is a lot of information, but we're just going to kind of go through and break this down and using it in the example of a submarine. So here you can see, name the submarines. I can zoom in a little bit more probably and be able to see it a little easier. So the bid strategy, this is based on the type of campaign you pick. You're going to have different options available depending on the campaign. This particular one is maximum CPV, which is cost per view. So it's like, I want to spend up to 10 cents per view and no more. Or I believe this one is maximum CPM. So how much are you willing to spend for 1,000 views or 1,000 impressions? So then you can simply just, you know, go in and put in your budget amount when you want this to actually run. All right. And then you can pick your networks. So there's YouTube search results, which we're all familiar with, YouTube videos. So maybe you're just kind of showing up and suggested in different places. Video partners on the display network. So Google has a massive ad network. It's not just on google.com and YouTube. It's like you're on some random website and you're seeing ads. There's a good chance that those ads are actually being served from Google. So that's part of their display network. Your locations is pretty easy, right? Where do you want to actually target in and where you want to focus in on? And that brings up a good point too. If you are running any kind of ads It's always good to kind of just fill out a customer avatar sheet. You go to Google, just search like customer avatar template. You'll find a ton of them. But it's good to kind of understand what the psychology and demographics are of your person. So submarines, you're like, well, I'm going to guess without knowing anything about it that this is going to lean 85% male. I wouldn't be surprised if it might be a little bit older. I could see it kind of being more of a hobbyist thing, retirement kind of thing. I'm making some assumptions, but if you're that guy with that channel, he knows all that data by looking at his YouTube channel. So language, I put in English. Inventory type, I can't do the drop down because this is just a screen capture, but what you can do in here is it kind of gives you a comfort level of what inventory type you want. If you're comfortable with more mature content, you can show it on there, but typically it starts out with standard. If you want to just open it up, you can open it up to more mature content as well. Obviously YouTube doesn't have like super graphic stuff on there, but it's just depending on how you want your brand or product or service being displayed. Excluded types, there's different stuff you can do in there. You can even make your own custom audiences. What we do a lot of times is it's like, let's say you're a business or a brand and you have customers and you have that customer list. We want to exclude the customer list because we're trying to get new customers in. So there's exclusions and different things that you can do there. Related videos. This one's pretty interesting. It's a little bit newer. I want to say maybe November, December it started. What that is, and I could be wrong saying this, but like if you're on mobile, you can put on a YouTube ad at the top, and then underneath it, you can say, I also want to display these videos. And that's really great because maybe the ad is short and it's kind of an introduction into something. It's like the 101. Well, you could have the 201 and the 301 video beneath that. And that's cool because you pay for one ad, but you have the potential of putting 3 videos in front of them immediately and getting 3 views. So it's kind of a neat way to like sequence videos to people all in one shot. Ad group name, just whatever you guys want to call it, right? Because you got your campaigns, then you have your ad groups, and then you have your ads. If you can think of the structure, campaign is going to have all of your ad groups, and then each ad group is going to have its own ads. Demographics, we all know what that is, right? Age, gender, parental status, all that. Audience segments, this is stuff that typically like you could be creating your own specific segments based on your own audience. It could be people who watched this content on my YouTube channel, right? And you think that that content would be the people who'd watch that are in the right place right now. So let's say like you're this guy with the Submarine channel, and he kind of is more so doing these like sonar videos, but let's say he was selling some weird little submarine, model that you could make. He might have a video that's talking about the best submarine models. He could make an actual audience inside of his ad campaign that would be specific to that video, and maybe a cluster of videos that are specifically talking about models. So instead of him saying, I want to remarket to my entire channel, I want to remarket to these 6 videos that I think are really relevant for this offer that I have. Keywords. So I think most of us are familiar with keywords for Google, right? Like you go to Google and you search something like, submarine models, right? With YouTube, it works similar like that, but it's looser. When you're using Google Ads and showing up for search results, it's immediate and in the moment. Like that person went to Google and searched like submarine spare parts screen door, and then your ad shows up in the Google ad. YouTube, there could be a delay on that. It might have been that they searched this 2-3 days ago, because yes, YouTube is a huge search platform, but it includes what people have been doing for days on Google, YouTube, and all their different platforms that they have. Topics here. So tons of topics. I actually have a Google sheet we can go through if anybody wanted to look through it. I could even share it with you. That kind of lays out all of these different topics. But I just started putting in the word submarine. That's all I did. And I put this in here because I want to show you how simple it is. And when I put in submarine, it's just like maritime transport, simulation games, fire and security services. And I pulled some of these in like boats and watercraft, defense industry. So these topics are more so a general thing, but these are people that are interested in boats and watercraft, right? Not quite, tight enough in my opinion, but we're going to talk about how you can get even tighter with your targeting as we go down the page here. So placements can be a few different things. It could be a specific video. It could be a channel. So you can see right here, the YouTube channel here, Naval News. If I go over here, this is the channel here, Naval News. If you're targeting based on a channel, you want to make sure that that channel is very specific to what it is that you're trying to sell or whatever your target goal is for running these ads, right? Because you could have a channel that sounds good based on the name and a few pieces of content, But if you were to sort the videos by most popular, and I don't know if this happened on this person's channel, but sometimes you'll see they have like one video that got 95% of all the views, and that's where all the subscribers are coming from. And if that video isn't relevant to what you're trying to sell, that's where you can kind of go off with your targeting if you're going with a channel. But you can also target based on specific videos. Like you can start to see like, you can just pick like a rare look inside a nuclear powered submarine, stuff like that. So you can actually do research, and there's different tools out there. It's like TubeSift, Adzula, all sorts. There's tons of them where you can just put a keyword in and it'll just fill out a online spreadsheet essentially of thousands of different videos. And you can just go through and check which ones make sense for you and figure out like, yes, I think the people watching these videos are in the right mindset to purchase what I do. So for example, like Neil, like when we got on the call, we were talking about his new backdrop. Let's say he made a video and the video is simply about, you know, how to create your own virtual backdrop like Neil's is right now. It looks really nice. I think it looks awesome. So he makes that video, but he didn't really think too much about it. He just posted it. The video catches a thread on YouTube, gets 4 million views. And then all of a sudden it's just like, well, geez, like, I mean, it's nice to have these 4 million views, but like, I would like to capitalize more on that video. I didn't think of that. I didn't think it was going to do 4 million views. He could even advertise on his own video through this process or creating a custom audience. And the nice thing is when those people are hitting, he knows like he can do it based on like people who watched my video and they watched it in the last 7 days. Give me that audience. So now, you know, those people in the last 7 days are like, I need a better backdrop for my video, right? We kind of have an understanding of where they are in their headspace. So then that ad that you would make for them would try to piggyback off of that, where they are in their like headspace in that moment, if that makes sense. So this is most of it as far as the targeting. Then you get into bidding. In this particular case, I had done CPV again, that's cost per view. I put in 10 cents. You can make it whatever you want. Some people, it kind of depends on what you're bidding on, right? If it's virtual backdrops or if it's mesothelioma, like you might have to spend a lot for mesothelioma, very little for virtual backdrops, you know. That is all kind of determined too. It's an inventory, right? If you get big companies spending big dollars on a specific topic, audience, targeting, whatever it is, you're going to be paid more on that. Where you guys might find this interesting too, if you're creating content on YouTube, the content that you create on YouTube, when you're paid for that, your Google AdSense, again, it just depends on what the content is. Like the average, typically if you were to go to Google and say, what's the average, you know, earnings, they call it RPM, revenue per million. Essentially, I don't know why it's per million. You guys can correct me, but per thousand, right? If you're making content again about, you know, a virtual backdrop, you might be in that $2 to $5 range. That's where the typical range is. But if you're making content on like SaaS products that have really good margins, and then you have companies with huge budgets bidding on that, then you might be up at $100 CPM. I've seen it up over close to $200 on some content that I've created. So I make $200 for every 1,000 views on that piece of content because those companies are spending so much money. So if you were to go onto that and try to do 10 cents a view, you'd never get any views. You'd have to pump it up. So once you get to the bottom of this, and I know it sounds like a lot, but it's just because I've been talking through so much. Once you get used to it, you can kind of get through these pretty quick. What you'll do is there'll be an option to put your actual video that you want to advertise in here. The interesting thing is it doesn't have to be your own video. So it could be somebody saying something really nice about your business and it's on their channel. You could advertise their own video to audiences that you select. In this particular case, I picked an in-feed video ad. And what it would look like is something like this on mobile, right? It would actually, the in-feed ads show up in your feed and they look just like a regular organic listing, except it'll just have a little mention there of ad. So those are kind of neat because if you're used to thumbnails and grabbing attention with thumbnails, in-feed video ads are a pretty natural progression. So if you've never ran a YouTube ad before, but you've done a lot of content on YouTube, I would say in-feed video ads are the easiest thing to start with to just kind of get an understanding of how it works, because you already understand thumbnails, titles, and, you know, the beginning of the video, all of that stuff. Skippable in-stream ads, those are a little bit different, right? Because you have that 5 seconds that you have to capture people's attention. So it's a little bit more of like a formulaic process because you got to be like, hey, you know, and you're doing the, you know, pattern interrupts and trying to stop them from watching the content that they actually want to watch. So it's a little bit more of a nuanced skill. You get to pick your thumbnail, and it's simply just your headline, description, and ad. And you can see these descriptions here. Click this sub. They're going to show up here in this area, depending on if you're like mobile or if you're on desktop and various devices. So that's kind of the run through I wanted to do really quick as far as like actually setting up an ad. And I thought that this might be helpful, just kind of more of like an open Q&A kind of thing, but I could pull this in as well. This is a cool document I got through a course that I went through. Tom Breeze, who's like a YouTube expert as far as ads, has a course that you can take. I highly recommend it. And one of the things is it gives you this keyword research doc. So everything that I've discovered on YouTube, it always goes back to research, whether it's organic or it's paid. It always goes back to research and understanding who it is you're trying to speak to and what is the best way to communicate to them. So when you're creating an ad, one of the things you want to start with is targeting and research, because you want to see what the potential targeting is. And then you want to kind of create a picture in your mind of like, where's somebody at based on this targeting, right? If we're targeting males that are between 30 to 40 years old and they're interested in employment and accounting, finance jobs, like maybe they're not employed at this point. So it's like when you're making that ad, you want to speak and you want to empathize with that person and be like, hey, it's tough when you're looking for work, right? And as soon as like people see or hear that in that first 5 seconds, you're tapping into their emotions and they're like, oh, geez, like not like they're going to be like, I want to give this guy money, but it might just be like, oh, he gets where I'm at. Right. And then you can build on that. And then you want to build on that through the video messaging. This document here, I won't get into too much of it. But if you guys have any questions about audience targeting, topic targeting, we got all the different topics on here. We can even just search through this sheet if you want, if you're curious, if there's something that you're interested in, if it shows up here, and we can just talk about that. But that's kind of in a nutshell, YouTube beginner ads. And I just kind of want to run through that with you guys.
Right. Excellent.
There's a lot,
well,
but
yeah. Well done though. I've got one thing before we get into questions. Everybody can think on it as I ask. Can you give the name again? You were saying this is tied to a course you went through. What
this guy, he has a company out in England, Viewability. His name's Tom Breeze, and he runs a lot of YouTube ads. Like if you're familiar with like Neil Patel or like Frank Kern or Ryan Dice, like he's the guy that they use for YouTube ads. So I've learned a lot from him and his program.
Excellent. I found him. So I'm popping him in the chat there for anybody who's looking for. Right.
Yeah, this whole document takes you from left to right on how you would go through and do research. It's getting into the weeds a little bit for this call. But I thought I would at least pull it up because I think it's interesting in terms of like, you can just look at it and say, okay, what are the different topics available? And if somebody in here was into, I don't know, like I already had business pulled up so you can see all those, but these are all the different types of topic targeting that you can do in business. So you're like, oh, I'm trying to reach people in food production. Well, it's that easy. Like you could literally, when you're putting in your ad and you're in the topics thing, you could just put the word food and you're going to see food production pull up. These though, not quite as tight on targeting, it could be a little bit looser. Ideally, the easiest place to start is any kind of audience that you already have. So whether that be blog traffic, your own YouTube channel, these are people that are already familiar with you. Maybe they abandoned cart, maybe they went to your contact page, but didn't submit a form, that kind of stuff. That's where you can really start with, as long as you have enough traffic or views on your content.
Excellent. So anybody have any questions on any of this? We can just it could be anything YouTube. I mean, I'm actually more comfortable speaking to the organic side than I am the ad side, but anything at all. Oh, and if they don't, please interrupt if you do. But there is one thing I wanted to show you. Sure.
So let's say we go to YouTube. And one thing I think you can do is like, let's look at the ads you see. So this one here, I got one from Noom because they think I should lose some weight. And this is interesting though, because I like just looking at the ads and I'm like, Noom is a company that I'm sure if I looked it up, they've probably either raised 100 million or they have some crazy, 8-figure valuation. So this is not some intern running their ads. This is a really well-tested ad that I have seen many times. So what we're seeing here is bread and eggs. And it was funny because the first time I noticed this ad, that's what I ate for breakfast that morning. And I'm like, oh, damn it, I probably made a mistake, you know? So they're just tapping into like, and there's not even words on it. All of the image is just simply there because they're trying to get you to then read what the text is. That's it.
But isn't that the healthy breakfast? No, it's not a bowl of, frosted flakes. No,
I don't know.
It looks like whole wheat bread to me.
Depends on, what decade you're asking from, but I'm trying to think like CRMs, right? Like they're, people will spend a lot on CRM. So Zoho, 843,000 views. I'm guessing I'm going to click on this and probably, nope. The ads don't always play, but this is a good one where that somebody who's searching this, where their mindset is at, and they're like, oh, somebody told me I need a CRM. I don't even know what a CRM is. So that's a great place to be in front of if you're trying to sell a CRM. I was hoping I would see an ad on that as far as somewhere else in here. Let me see here. What is CRM? This one's from Salesforce.
What is CRM?
You've got you somehow we're beating the system. Every time I open a YouTube video, I get an ad.
Yeah, right. But I like watching these ads because sometimes you'll see ones that are really good. And something you can do, which is a little trick, is a lot of times if it's a advertiser, like let's go to who advertises a ton, is anybody heard of that Dr. Squatch deodorant? Anybody? Sean,
No.
Yeah. Probably, honestly, if you're female, you probably don't know it because you don't get advertised it. It's a very male-centric brand. They advertise like crazy to males. So they have really good videos, but what you can do is you can go to videos and then sort by most popular.
They're hilarious.
Yeah, they are really funny. And are 171 million people really wanting to watch a video about deodorant? No, like they're running tons of ads.
Placement, yeah.
Well, what that tells me again, I would like to think that their ad buyer is not going to spend to get 171 million views unless this thing is working. So a lot of times too, like if I'm researching a competing product, right? Like it's somebody else who's selling Submarine Screen Doors, right? And I look on their channel and I'm like, wow, they got like 2 million views on that video, which would never happen in that particular case. But that there's probably something going on there. So there's different tools that you can use to dissect the ads. But I love looking at the ads and saying, what do the thumbnails look like? What are they doing in the ads? How are they grabbing your attention? And I just find it interesting just to watch them. So one of the things you can do too, and I'm trying to see if I can actually get an ad to pull up because I wanted to show you in real time. Dr. Squatch. I don't want one on their channel. What is this? Dr. Squish. I don't even know what that is. All right. Best soap here.
Guys.
All right. Perfect. Ad. So I'm going to pause this. This is another ad from Dr. Squatch. I don't know if this one's live on their channel, but if you right click on there and you click stats for nerds, what ends up happening is you can then copy this. This is their actual video ID. So if I want to take that, I'm going to copy that. I'm just going to put it in this ID up here after the equal sign. And the nice thing about this is a lot of times companies don't want you to know their stats and things like that. And you'll be able to see their unlisted videos that are advertising and be able to just get a better idea of how many views are on here. So I think it just skipped. I think I double clicked something. Yeah. So this particular one, I'm like, okay, that's only been running for less than a month, 34,000 views, but this one worked out well. I don't know if you guys can read that, but that's an unlisted video. So what I have found is as you're researching your competition and you're going on their websites, so you might be in their remarketing list, you're looking at relevant content on YouTube. When you see those ads pop up, just right click stats for nerds and grab that YouTube ID. And that's a really neat hack to be able to find out what their unlisted videos are. And you can start building a library of what is purely their ad content that they don't want publicly out there.
That's excellent.
And I highly recommend this funniest leadership speech ever if you get a chance to watch it.
We'll watch that after the meeting.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's always scary though when you're showing people your live YouTube because it's like essentially you're showing people this is the content I consume. And you're like, why is there all these videos of a male crying in a pillow?
Yeah. Well, there's that gets scarier when you share channels with people and stuff too, I think, right? Or share logins. But I've had that happen where I've had clients be like, we can't have these suggested videos that are showing up in my player on our website because they're, something they don't like. And then you have to explain to them that that's due
You
to
probably
their
have a
own
kid that's
browsing
been on your
history.
YouTube,
Yes.
right? It's not you.
Yeah, right. You have to be like,
So-
nope, sorry, that's your browsing history that's bringing up those suggested videos. So.
Yeah. YouTube just keeps serving me really adult content.
Yes, right. Don't know where that
So,
comes from.
Speaking of that, because
yep.
I know we got a few. Do we still have a few minutes, Neil? Or are we going? Are we supposed to?
We do have a few minutes. I want to make sure nobody has questions. I have a few, but I can hold them until after. If you got something else you want to get into it.
I may have talked about this a year ago when we were on here doing YouTube as far as the organic side. But one of the coolest things that you can do is creating a dummy account. If you really want to nerd out on research about a certain industry topic, whatever it is, what you end up doing is you create a fake Gmail address. And again, I'll just stick with the crappy example of Submarine Screen Doors. And you would make it like, submarinedummy@gmail.com. You create a YouTube account. And what I would do is I would start with channels that I think are a really good fit for that topic. So I might go to that one on naval news, the sub brief, and I would find like maybe 10 channels. And each channel, I would go through it and I would watch one relevant video from them. And then in the sidebar, you have the suggested that shows up when you're on desktop. I'd watch another video from them all the way through. At the end of that video, I'd like and subscribe. And then I would watch a third video that would show up in that suggested from them as well. So I would do this 10 times for 10 different channels. So there's two reasons you do this. The first is you start to see the patterns that are happening on the channels that are successful. And you're like, oh, okay, they have these openers, they have these types of thumbnails, these types of titles, this type of pacing. They re-engage this often. They have these teasers. You can just kind of figure out what's actually working for the people that are successful. And it's pretty easy to see, right? Like this one guy here, Sub Brief, you can look at his channel in 2 seconds. You'd be like, okay, 126,000 subscribers. Are they engaged? Well, he had a video from 7 days ago with 586,000 views. That's awesome. Like this guy is doing well, right? So once you do this, you start to see the patterns and your pattern recognition kicks in of like understanding what people actually want. Because there's our preference. Like there's my preference at how fast I want to talk. There's my preference on how I want to present information and consume information. But you want to be able to do it in the way that your audience wants it, right? And YouTube's literally giving you that information because you can see how many views are on these pieces of content. Then a day later, when you log into YouTube and go on the homepage, which I'm scared to do because this is my channel, you get to see content that YouTube thinks you'd like. So earlier today, I think I watched a video of Johnny Depp and his divorce, right? And that's why they're serving this piece of content. They're like, this guy maybe wants to watch another video on Johnny Depp's divorce. I know I'm a horrible person. Last week tonight, I watched
Johnny
that.
Depp there too.
This is a video that this kind of stuff I watch with my kids sometimes. Deep Focus, I play that a lot of times when I'm, working, right? What happens though is if it's a dummy account and the only content you've consumed is very hyper specific to what you're interested in creating content about, YouTube is going to start serving you not only from those subscribers, but suggested content on your homepage. And the really cool thing about this is that I've had it. I'm going to stop sharing at this point. I went through this process on passive income because I was creating a channel on passive income. And there's all these things on passive income that were showing up. But then all of a sudden there's a video on my homepage and it was just like meal prep. And I was like, that's so weird. I didn't watch one video on meal prep. I didn't search meal prep, nothing. So then I sat there and I'm like, why did I get a meal prep video? And I'm like, okay, people interested in passive income are not only interested in passive income, they're really interested in saving time because passive income is saying, I don't have to work for that income, and meal prep saves time. So the YouTube algorithm, I was able to reverse engineer it and get to understand like, oh, okay, like I could potentially make content around meal prep as just like to kind of diversify my channel. But it's just so neat the way that YouTube can kind of create this sphere around your audience and show you exactly what they're looking for on the homepage of that dummy account.
That's an awesome exercise.
Yeah, it's time consuming, but if you're really serious about making content on YouTube, it's so worth it. The number one lesson I've painfully learned over and over again is do the research first. Like figure out who it is you're trying to talk to, see what people are doing out there, see what's working for other people, then start running ads or then start making content. Because a lot of times we have this urge as creators to create because that's the fun part. It's not as fun doing the research. But as I started to learn that process, I actually started to enjoy the research quite a bit because I would see the success that it would create by doing that research.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I'm going to go last call for questions. If not, I'm going to serve you up a meatball question before we kind of close out. No? Yes? Anybody? Okay. Awesome. So I think that is a great tip on research. I wonder too, if you could talk a little more about, you talked about kind of piggybacking a channel or targeting a specific channel for placement for your videos. Have you found a lot of success with that? It seems like if you latched on to the right channel, you could really kind of ride coattails with that.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on what your goal is, right? And sometimes your thing, it might not even be a specific thing as like I was talking about submarine models, right? It may be that you're like, I'm a business coach or I'm a marketing strategist or marketing consultant, but I kind of identify with Gary Vaynerchuk. I want people who like Gary V. I think they're going to like me too. So you can even do stuff like that where you're adding that into the targeting mix. So yes, right. I want to target Gary V's channel because I have a similar vibe as he does. And I also want to target these keywords, right? So that's where it gets kind of neat is you can almost use a channel and the following and subscribers because you see it all the time. I mean, we're all in high school. There's clicks everywhere and you're like, okay, they're into that. Those are the jocks, nerds, whatever. And you can do the same thing on YouTube and you can start looking at the clicks based on, and not, I hope people know I'm not talking about click, but looking at it based on the actual context of that channel and what kind of people might be interested in that content. Yeah. And actually something that I'm really interested in is figuring out like how to leverage my skill sets in YouTube, but how to take it to something that I'm really passionate about. I enjoy what I do. I don't love it in my bones like some people do. I think very few people get that privilege. But I love comedy. I love it. I'll watch it all day, every day. I'm surprised there wasn't comedy clips showing up on my homepage there. But I've actually started to look into ways that I can take my understanding on YouTube and blend it with comedy and help up and coming comedy acts be able to grow on YouTube. So it's just neat because the platform is endless. Like you can do anything with it once you start to understand it and figure it out.
Awesome. Yeah, I think we scratched the surface today, but there is so much depth and so much real estate and so many subjects that you can get into on YouTube. I think great presentation, and we'll continue this conversation for anybody who's on the live call here after we sign off, but I'm going to do a sign off on the live stream. So thank you to all of us, or all of you who joined us via live stream. And thank you to everyone who came live to the meeting as well. Don't miss out on that next meeting, which is coming up on May 5th at 8 p.m. Eastern. It features marketer and content creator Patrick Carano presenting quick and easy LinkedIn workouts with video. The event info is in the description for this live stream at events.vidwheel.com. And with that, I will